Raiders at the Chiefs. This is going to be a good one.
This is
Dexter
personal.
Reed.
This is personal.
It's so personal. Dexter Reed, World of Matchups. Spencer the Wiz, Blue Milk Boys Gaming, breaking down another game of the week. Raiders head to Kansas City, Monday Night Football under the lights of Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. So I picked against my Chiefs last week, and I was pleasantly surprised by how focused and how well they looked in Tampa Bay versus Tom Brady and that defense. They really carved that team up. And I'm telling you, man, when the Kansas City Chiefs have something to play for, or when the pundits just are throwing dirt on their grave all week and they're just seething to get on the field, this team is really hard to beat. And I'm telling you, this is going to be really ugly on Monday night for your Raiders, Spencer. Your Raiders are in trouble. Now, it's an AFC West matchup. These games tend to be close a lot of the times, but they do not tend to be close when Derek Carr plays Kansas City in Arrowhead. I think the last 3 or 4 times he's been there, he's thrown maybe 2 touchdowns and like 10 picks. They're getting outscored by 3 to 4 touchdowns. Kansas City under the lights with those fans. They tend to play really, really well. I think Patrick Mahomes is playing at a very high level, as he should. I think we're all spoiled with Patrick Mahomes' greatness. And so if he has a bad stretch of games, we're ready to bury him. And the guy showed you Sunday night why he's still Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the number one player in the National Football League. I don't care what any of those lists say. I don't care what any of those pundits say. He does things that no one else can do. He can take over the field.
Oh
The
yeah,
difference,
if there was a redraft of the entire league, like it was like a snake draft, I guess, whatever you want to call it. He would go first overall. There's no debating that.
it's no debating it, man. And I wish people would really stop with this. I mean, in order for Patrick Mahomes to get his props, it seems like the guy has to win the Super Bowl every single year. And I get that Super Bowl accolades and the rings matter, but if we're just breaking down functionality at the quarterback position, there is nobody better. I mean, I love Josh Allen this year, I really do. But Patrick Mahomes, his football acumen is off the charts. I mean, that spin move he threw on Devin White to that little push pass to CEH in the end zone was absolutely unbelievable. I'd watched that like 15 times, and the defense, you could just tell that game was over at that point. The game, they were just completely deflated, and so that kind of a Raiders defense that really can't defend that well in the middle of the field, they're going to get beat up by Kelsey. We know that's coming. The spread's only 7. I think the Chiefs cover the spread easily. They've got a lot of players who have yet to produce. Sky Moore's, Isaiah Pacheco's really coming on. Their rookie class, Carl Aftis. These guys will make an impact eventually, and I can't think of a better place for it to happen than under the lights Monday night. I saw a tweet from RG3 this week that kind of it solidified what I've been saying since Tyreek Hill got traded. Look, you cannot focus on just one person now. You have to defend every single blade of grass on the field when the Chiefs hit the stadium, and you don't know where the ball is going. Now it's not the flashy Chiefs of 18-19, but when they have a drive where 9 guys touch the ball on one drive, how do you defend that? And their interior line is as good as any. Trey Smith is fantastic. Creed Humphrey is great. I mean, they have great players up front. They've got great skilled players. They're not flashy anymore, but it looks like they nickel and dime you and get the job done when it matters. I don't see the Raiders having enough. I see Derek Carr choking when it matters again. I'm going to say 31-17 Kansas City.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one. It doesn't seem good on paper, but I don't know. The more I look back at the beginning of this season, the Cardinals' loss was obviously like a special kind of loss because like the Cardinals are bad,
They're
but at
bad.
the very least they were a playoff team last year. You know, the Titans look like everyone says they're going to be like the worst team in the NFL. I don't understand that. I really think that they're not. So I think that they played close games and they played teams that were above 500 last year, like every week other than the Broncos, which they beat. It's not like they've been blown out just quite yet. So the one thing that I think about the Raiders that is really interesting that seems to fly under the radar, everyone's talking about they want a better defense. They want a better defense. Dude, if you look back, like the situations the defense has been in, they haven't allowed more than 24 points at any point this season. I think the barometer for winning for the Raiders this season was holding the team to 24 or less. Like that was pretty much the literal exact number I had put on paper. 24 points or less per game, and the offense, with all its weapons, is supposed to score over 30 points a game. The defense has held up their end of the bargain the entire season. I think everyone talks about the big narrative is that Josh McDaniels is a bad play caller. I just haven't seen it yet. What I've seen is Hunter Renfrow fumbling in overtime. What I've seen is Darren Waller dropping a pass that pops up in the air that goes for an interception for the Titans. I've seen a lot of mistakes from the guys. I've seen Derek Carr make some bad passes. I think if it all came together, we're talking about like 3 plays and the Raiders could be 4-0. I mean, that's how big of a difference. But we know that's how football works. It's a game of inches. And last week, the running game finally came awake, right? They were the worst running team in the league, which I don't know. I don't get obsessed with numbers. Somebody has to be last. And it's not like the Raiders were unsuccessful running the football in the first 3 weeks. I just think they didn't go to it enough, and they tried to go too pass happy. And I think Josh McDaniels is gonna develop. This guy's a good offensive coordinator. Let's not lie to ourselves. There were some amazing systems in New England. Yes, he had Tom Brady. Obviously, we all know that. But man, the guy designed the systems that made these teams successful. And the thing that we always talk about in New England, it's like whatever you have, he maximizes it. And I think they're close. I really do. I know I talk about how bad they are, and really the reality is they're not a great football team. But I don't think they're as bad as everyone makes it out to seem. Raiders fans are the most up and down fans ever. It's one week that they're going to go 10-3, and now they're going to be, trading Derek Carr and getting Bryce Hall, first overall. It's always a roller coaster. I try to stay somewhere in the middle and try to stay in reality. I think that if the Raiders can run the ball effectively, keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes as much as possible, that's always going to be the best strategy. But I think this game could also come down to a few injuries. So Denzel Perryman came back last week. He's like one of our best defensive players. Came out of nowhere from a trade last year, I think from the Miami Dolphins, and he's turned into like borderline all pro. You don't know this guy's name. He made the Pro Bowl last year, and he's playing just as well this year. He's had some injuries, and unfortunately when he came back last week also suffered a concussion. Obviously, we don't know the severity of it. He's questionable. And then his buddy, Jayon Brown, also has an issue of injuries throughout his career, a former Titan. He's been pretty good when he's on the field. He's also dealing with a hamstring injury, which those are always tricky. If those guys can stay in, because they're good when they play. Jayon Brown's always been good in his career when he's been on the field. It's just the best abilities availability for him. But if those two can suit up, I think they can do enough. Maybe a few plays here and there to slow down Travis Kelce. And I like the matchups on the outside. I think Nate Hobbs is going to be fine on Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think that Koo is going to be just fine on any other receiver that they may put him on throughout these packages. It's actually not the secondary that I'm too worried about. Stopping the run, the Chiefs have been quite effective this year, which has flown really under the radar. CEH, they're finally realizing that this guy's the best running back on the team, and I think they're giving him the ball now, which is good for my fantasy team. But I think it's even better for the Chiefs. But the Raiders have also been pretty good against the run. They played against Derrick Henry, who is like pretty much the best running back in the league. I think we can all agree. Guy didn't blow us up. He got his because he's Derrick Henry, but he didn't blow us up either. So it'll come down to the matchups in the middle. So it depends on if these linebackers play. I'm not saying that's the only thing that matters. And it'll also come down to whether Hunter Renfrow plays, if Derek Carr can get a little bit better. Because honestly, this has been the worst season that Derek Carr has played in a long time. He hasn't been good this season. I'm like never been his supporter. I've never been like I've always said he's just an average quarterback. He's like the run of the mill 15th, right? The 15th quarterback in the league, which usually isn't enough to win you a game. But he's been closer to 20 this season for me. You know what I mean? So I think, again, he has another new system. That's always been the knock on Derek Carr. Every year he has a new system. This is another one. I think this is by far the best system he's ever played in. And I think it'll only get better with time. And maybe we won't see the fruits of this labor until the next season. You would hope not. But at the very least, you're going to see improvements week to week. You saw a lot of improvement last week for the team, which is a great thing. He's not turning the ball over as much anymore. All of those things can come together against the Chiefs, but it's been a long time for the Raiders. The matchup hasn't been good. But at the same time, this has been the best Raiders team that I have seen since like the Jason Campbell. I can't. the Rod Streeter days, those 8-8 teams with Carson Palmer. That's probably the best, the Richard Seymour days. This is the best team since then. I know they had that big season, but that was a fluky season. They won in the last play every single time. And then, Derek Carr went down against the Colts. So I would say since that team, this is the best one on paper they've had. And I think you'll see that as the season goes on. This is not going to be a 5-win team. They're going to win more games than that. The schedule opens up. But when it comes to this matchup right here, it doesn't look good, but it's also a division matchup against a Raiders team that is improving. So I think truly anything can happen on Monday.
Yeah, and while I agree with a lot of what you're saying, the history, it speaks something different. I think what you do have in your pocket as a wild card is Devontae Adams. He'll be on a rookie more than likely. I don't know if they'll put Rashad Fenton on him. I don't think it will matter. But you mentioned something earlier that I think is going really under the radar, is that it seems as if Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are finally committing to running the ball for 4 quarters, which if they do that, the rest of the league better watch out. Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White ran for 2 yards last Sunday. 2. So now the Chiefs are running the ball. They're stopping the run. And all of a sudden, they're playing decent defense, opportunistic defense. We know what they're going to do on offense. I get excited when they do something on defense. And so they're going to be galvanized, man, because they know the whole world is watching. Everybody's been swinging from their nuts all week. I think that if they shut Josh Jacobs down, you're in for a long night. Because if you're relying on Derek Carr to win a game for you, you're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And so Darren Waller has been very average. Hunter Renfrow coming back from a concussion. You don't know what you're going to get there. The Raiders will score for sure, but I don't think they have the horses on defense to slow down Patrick Mahomes. The best player on the field, under the lights, in his own building. Go home. He's going to get laid. I mean, he's going to go off. We know this. The question is, can the Raiders score enough to keep pace?
That's been their issue the whole season. Can they score enough? That should be like the last issue for this team, but it has been so far. They need to be scoring 30 points a game. Like that's how the team's designed, and they really just haven't done that. They got a scoop and score from Amik Robinson in that Broncos game. Their offense really didn't score 30.
They can't score. I mean, literally, like if there was ever a time to go into your bag of tricks, Josh McDaniels, it's this game, because I'm here to tell you, Raider Week is a real thing in Kansas City. And Andy Reid, for as bad as he can be at times, he's got a bag of tricks, and he'll go right into them. You're going to see stuff from Kansas City this week that you haven't seen yet. I don't think the Raiders will be able to withstand it. And again, the Tyreek thing, that's a huge, huge loss, but I don't think it matters. I really don't. I think the Chiefs are better now. I really do. You finally get some horses in place. You use those picks the right way. And I'm telling you, the X factor, you watch out for this guy, Spencer. Isaiah Pacheco, man. This guy is the next great running back in the National Football League. If he gets a complement of touches, I've never seen a guy run harder. He runs every single route, every single time he gets the ball, like it's the last time he's ever going to run the ball. He runs so hard. And you're starting to see them mix him in with CEH, so CEH stays fresh. Well, I mean, the Chiefs rushing for 100 yards on anyone is ridiculous, because that's just not what they've done. But if that's who they're becoming, the league is on notice. I like the Chiefs -7. I think there'll be a lot of points in this game. I'd take the over, but I don't see.
Yeah, that would be the biggest action I'd probably be interested in, because I think that the betting market is going to adjust to the Raiders not scoring a lot of points, and I think eventually the well is going to open up. The Raiders are going to have a big scoring week. It could be this week. It could be.
It could be this week, but I mean, the Chiefs could also hit the over by themselves.
Yeah, no kidding.
Take the over, eat a pepperoni pizza, guys, and enjoy the game. We're out.